Welcome back to the Lifework Podcast from Williams Baptist University. This is part 2 of our conversation with Dr. Ruth Provost, Vice President for Academic Affairs. If you haven't listened to episode 1 yet, we encourage you to go back and hear her story of growing up as a missionary kid and discovering her calling. In today's episode, Dr. Provost talks about how God led her back to Williams, how he guided her into academic leadership, and what it looks like to trust him with your vocation. Now here's Dr. Stan Norman with part 2 of the conversation.
Welcome to the Lifework Podcast. We are joined again by Ruth Provost. And in our last episode, we looked a little bit at your personal pilgrimage and how God was orchestrating the events of your life to bring you, to call you, to lead you to doing what you're doing today, where you're doing it. I do want to go back because you referenced how you got to Williams by a phone call from a professor, department chair here. I want to hear about the heavenly call from the Lord about leading you here. And it could be something along the lines that God's spoken that you needed a job, your alma mater's calling, and you want to go back, or there could be more involved in that. So I just want to unpack that a little bit more.
Sure. So I began looking to come back to the lower 48 from Alaska, so moving closer to my parents and everything. Ever since I was in college, one of the things I kind of alluded to in the first podcast where I said I didn't like the question, where are you from? I had a hard time knowing where I was from and where was home. And that's not uncommon for MKs or what are called third culture kids, because you aren't a part of the culture you grow up in. But when you return to the States, you don't really feel a part of that culture either. And so it's hard finding your spot or your place. So throughout my academic journey at Williams, I didn't feel like I really fit. It was lovely. I loved my time here at Williams, but I was ready to leave when I graduated. I was out the door, and I, driving down the road to the highway saying, "I'll never be back," kind of thing. God laughed. And then I went to Wheaton thinking maybe that's where I'll find a home. And again, God would be with me, and I'd learn a lot, and I'd learn about who I was in God and about my faith. And God always revealed himself to me, that he was there and he was with me. But I had a very restless spirit is how I describe it. It wasn't home. So hence why would you go to Alaska? Why not? I was looking for home. I was looking for a place to belong. So again, went to Alaska for a little over 2 years. And during that time, I enjoyed it. I learned a lot. God taught me so many lessons, particularly in grace and forgiveness, and along those areas with working with people. And I discovered my passion for teaching while I was there. But again, restlessness. So I have the phone call from Dr. Rhodes, and I come back, and it was coming home. I don't know how else to describe it.
So when you left, it wasn't home.
It wasn't home.
But coming back, it was
home. I've been here 21 years, and that restlessness has never reappeared. And that's how I know I'm still supposed to be here, I guess. I've never looked for another job. I've never thought about leaving, even on my worst day. It's always been, this is having a strong conviction that this is where God has called me and where he wants me. And until that restless feeling comes again, this is where I am.
So
if it comes again.
When Dr. Rhodes called, did you get a sense it was more than just Paul calling? Did you think, okay, God is orchestrating this?
I did, because I had been in contact with Dr. Rhodes and asked him if he knew of any jobs in the area, not necessarily even in Williams, but any in Arkansas. And he said no. So that's why I was looking in Illinois. There wasn't a reason or a way to come back closer to home at that point. So I very much felt that, well, that's a God thing.
Okay. So you get here and you join the faculty, and how long were you on the teaching faculty?
For 20 years.
Wow. When did things begin to change?
That's an interesting question. Hindsight is 20/20, like you said. So looking back on it, I can see God beginning to work in my spirit and in my life. Probably in the spring, well, it may have been sooner than that. Maybe last year, sometime over last year. I know particularly in the spring, he did a lot of work in my heart, working on me giving up that control that I like to hold on to, and making sure that I committed my life to him, my work to him, that he is sovereign and in control and I am not, and just letting go and giving him, as my pastor says, giving him my yes and saying, I will do what you ask. And no matter what you ask. And I didn't know what he was going to ask. I had a sense that he was asking me to do something, but I thought it was something in my church more than something here at Williams, because I was happy and I was content as a faculty member. I loved it. Were there days it was old and stale? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
But overall, I couldn't imagine not doing that. So yeah, but I don't think I would have been open to making the move to administration without God working in me to prepare me for that.
So Dr. Putman announces his resignation, and we began a search. And
Yes.
how did God speak to you about
that?
prompting you to consider this?
So before he left campus, Dr. Putman came in and we were talking, kind of, saying bye and all that kind of stuff. And he said, I want you to consider applying for my job, for the position of academic dean. And I said, really? Are you sure? Don't you mean someone else?
Did I make you mad?
I'm like, I had just had my annual performance review with Dr. Hare. He'd asked me if I'd ever thought about administration, and I had vehemently assured him that no, I would never move into administration. That wasn't on my radar.
There are dark, evil people in administration.
There are. Why would I do such a thing? I'm already on the dark side of psychology. Why would I move over to the dark side of administration?
Even deeper into the darkness.
That's right. And he said this, and always before, it's been a super easy no, and this time it wasn't a super easy no. And I didn't know why it wasn't a super easy no, because it should have been, in my mind, a super easy no. So I remember Ryan left, and my colleague, Dr. Val, came into my office, and we were talking, and he's like, and I told him what Ryan had said, and he's like, well, and I'm like, I don't know. And I was very agitated. I couldn't really explain why I was so agitated, because I shouldn't have been, and why I was feeling, and it was because I was feeling like maybe this is something I should do, and I was fighting against this is what I think I don't want to do. And so at the end of the day, I was like, okay, I'm going to just give it to God, and if this is what he thinks I should do, then he'll show me. He'll lead the way, and I'm going to just wait and see. I'm going to trust in him and wait and see. And about 2 or 3 weeks later, I got a text message out of the blue from Tanya Bolton, our director of admissions, and she said, "Hey Ruthie, have you ever considered?"
Hey Ruthie, there you go.
"Have you ever considered applying for Ryan's job, the academic dean? Because I think you'd be really good at it." And I remember I was the only one at home, and I was like, almost started crying. I was like, what? God, no, we had this settled. I wasn't going to do something like that. What? And so I texted her back, and I said, can I call you? And we ended up talking for about 20 or 30 minutes. And I was like, did Ryan talk to you? Dr. Putman talk to you? She's like, no. No, this is just for me. I just felt like you should do this. I should say this. And I was like, okay. So we talked, and she's like, about it. And I said, okay. So she goes, talk to Dr. Startup. He's someone I go to a lot when I don't know what to do. Dr. Startup, of course, former academic dean when I was a student here. I was here at Williams for a long time. I said, okay. So I called 2 people. I called Melinda Williams, or I texted her and said, can I talk?
Yes.
And I called and texted Dr. Startup and said, hey, can you talk to me about this? Is what I want to talk about. And they were both so kind and both so encouraging that after I got off the phone call with both, I think Ken was the next day. And after I got off the phone call with him, I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to apply. And if this is God's will, all I know at this point is that he's telling me to apply. So I'm going to apply. And from there, it's up to him. I've done my job. I've been obedient in the application process.
Okay. So what happened then?
Well, I got a phone call, I think, or you contacted me and asked if I could come in for an interview with the search committee and then with you. And I said, okay. So I did.
Oh, no.
I know. Funnily enough, someone who doesn't really like talking that much to people or can get nervous with public speaking, did not have that during the whole interview process. I was very much at peace. I was a little anxious, but not staying up at night worrying about it anxious. It was more of an excited anxious. And I found it actually very enjoyable through the interview process. I felt like I was getting to chat with old friends and talk about my love for Williams and what I loved about it and things I love doing for it. And so it was very much, if I dare say, pleasant experience. And yeah.
So I have a mentor that I never worked for, but through personal and private interactions, he shared a lot of life wisdom. And one of his nuggets of just a gem of wisdom is the statement, God wastes no life experience. That has embedded itself right between my eyes. I think about that a lot. I can't say every day, but surely every week, if not more often than that. And so let's play out a hypothetical here that drawing off my own experience and then kind of leaning into what you would do. The longer I do what I do, the older I get, the more I lean into sharing about my own journey of my own calling and the multiple stages of that. And it is unbelievable in that I never envisioned way back when that I would ever do what I'm doing now. But way back when was the first step to God leading me to what I'm doing now. Knowing that God is not going to waste any of your life experiences and a biblical obligation, a discipleship obligation to steward those life experiences. What advice? I'm going to ask you to do something you like doing. What counsel? How would you talk to me if I'm a student in your office and I say, I am struggling with a call for this? What nuggets of wisdom from your journey would you share with that student? Say, this is what God did here, here, here. And that calling, and I believe I'm called to do what I'm doing as much as any preacher, evangelist, or missionary is called to do what they're doing. God's called me to do this. This is what I would share. What would that be?
I think what I frequently told them, it's okay not to know what you want to do when you grow up. It's okay to know, okay, I want to go into psychology or English or Christian ministries, whatever it is. It's okay if you don't know what the end goal is. Sometimes that changes.
It will change.
It will change.
Yes, it will.
Exactly. And so it's more important to be obedient in that time. If you feel God is calling you in some way, then step out in faith. God will make a way. If it is the right thing to do, it's going to work out.
So what's the first thing I do, Dr. Provost? Yeah. I'm sensing God calling me to this. What's the first thing I should do?
So the first thing you should do is if you're in the correct major, if he's calling you to the major you're in, then you keep going forward. You take the next step. If you're in one major and you sense he's calling you to another major, then we have to make the change.
How would I know that sensing? How would I?
Okay.
Because you were English.
Yeah. So how did I know?
Yep.
I think it goes back to if you have a particular, God gives us our passions. He gives us what we feel strongly about, what we're excited about. I frequently say, do something that makes you, that you're excited about. We spend a lot of time at work. Mm-hmm. I feel so bad for people who hate what they do for a living, because then you're miserable most of the time.
Yes. Because
work is most of our time.
Yes, it is.
So do what you're passionate about. Do what what you enjoy doing. God has given us the ability to discern that. I don't think God wants us to be miserable. He wants us to rely on him. He wants us to trust him. And if he's presenting these opportunities and we feel perhaps that this is something we're being led to do, then let's try it out. And I say, if you're not sure, take a class. Take a class in this area that you're thinking about. See if you're interested in it, seeing if you enjoy it, see if it speaks to you. If it does, great. Maybe that's something we can explore more. If it's not, let's see what else is out there. I think it's okay to live in the not knowing also. I think part of that is growth and understanding, and it's searching for that, for our calling. And sometimes it's clear. I used to envy people who, since third grade, knew they were going to be a psychologist and read their parents' psychological textbooks and all that kind of stuff. Played counselor. I never did that.
That ain't natural.
No, that's not normal, right? I did not know what I wanted to do at that age. Obviously, missionary to the moon, right? I didn't know. So I think it's more normal to have that searching feeling, to be unsure. And what I frequently found was that I have a student who thought maybe they were going to be a teacher all these years, and then they took intro to teaching and realized, I can't be a teacher. That's not what I don't. So now they're searching for something else. So take some more classes, find things that interest you, find areas. What is it about teaching that you wanted to do? Usually it's, I wanted to work with kids. Okay. I wanted to help kids. Okay. Psychology could do that. Let's talk about psychology of the school, and look at that and see if that's a possibility.
So at the beginning of the academic year, or maybe in the summer, I gave you a book to read.
You did.
And you read it, and then you wanted to share that with our faculty, and we bought them all copies, and they have or are supposed to be reading. We'll see.
Yes.
What did you learn about your own journey, about your own calling, your own work from that book?
Yes.
And the book is The Gospel at Work, right?
Yes, it is. Three things that stood out to me. The first was that I'd always known that work was my ministry. I learned that through my parents' example on the mission field. But having it, I'd never seen it written out. I'd never seen someone from, a theological and a work background saying, yeah, this is what it is. Your work is your ministry. So even though I had learned that, I had not seen it in writing. And that really affirmed me that what I'd always believed was other people believed too, that was truth. And then the second was the idea that kind of two things. The second being that sometimes work becomes our idol and we make our work everything.
Yeah.
And it diminishes and we take away from God in that way. Or then the flip of that is that we can be idle at work and we rob God of that way, of not doing things the way we should that regard. Again, flowing back to work is worship, work is ministry. So if we're doing it correctly, then everything we do for the glory of God. Everything.
Yep. So are you finding work satisfaction in this new role you've assumed?
I am, which kind of on the outside is surprising, right?
Really?
I guess I always enjoyed the classroom so much that I wasn't sure what it would be like not being in the classroom full time. And I think this is more evidence following God's calling that he has, for whatever, changed me in that I'm loving what I'm doing. I'm enjoying it. No day is the same. It is always different. There's always another mini crisis coming up or something else, a problem to be solved. And some are easy and some are more challenging and some are quick and some are long lasting. But at the end of the day, I'm very satisfied and enjoying it, and I enjoy the challenge, and I'm having a good time, which good. I didn't know I was going to, but I am.
Well, I have enjoyed getting to know you better and working with you in this new role. You're doing a great job, and I'm very proud of you, by the way.
Thank you.
I just think the Lord has prepared you well for this time of service in this role, and just to affirm you have risen to the occasion.
Thank you.
You have embraced this calling and still learning, I'm sure, as we all are, but you're doing an exceptional job. And I'm sure the faculty are affirming and encouraging to you in this role as well.
They are.
even though you went to the dark side.
Even though I did, yes. But
So do you have any final words, any parting encouragements for our listeners about thinking through wrestling? Because as I have thought about your story and thinking through the role of parents in shaping how you view a life of a follower of Jesus and looking at how their influence shaped your understanding of serving the Lord, of calling and ministry, of how an unexpected turn in that a place where you did your undergraduate degree you thought you would never return, and yet it became a place you call home. And then the maturation of your calling and going first as English, and that's not it, and then psychology, but not a counselor, and then teaching, and then eventually into administration. The Lord has certainly done a great work and continues to do that in your life. What would you want our listeners to know most about the wonder and joy of their vocation and calling?
I think when you are surrendered to God in all areas, then you have that peace and you have that joy that comes from knowing you're doing what He has called you to do, and there's nothing like it. So if you're not feeling that, then maybe spending some time in prayer, spending some time with wise counsel, thinking about that, searching for that. God tells us if we seek Him and we cry out to Him, He will answer. He will tell us. He will show us. So if we're not sure, even if we're not sure about what major we need to have or what job we need to take, then starting with seeking, spending time in His Word, praising Him, spending time in prayer, spending time in worship, and God will show you. Yeah. His Spirit will resonate with your spirit, and
That's a good place to stop. That's a great word. Thank you for joining us on Lifework Podcast. Delighted to have you.
Thank you.